3 weeks ago, I went to the National Renewable Energy Lab in Golden, Colorado, NREL.
Yes.
Which is where they're doing all the studies for your cellulosic ethanol, your butanol, your biodiesel, everything. In 2006, they almost had to shut some doors. They had to let go of some scientists, etc., because of earmarks that were attached to their budget.
Right.
John McCain is against earmarks.
Yes.
Sarah Palin has said that she is against earmarks in the way they were. She's for earmarks as long as the congressperson says that they want one. Would that be the way you understood earmarks?
My view is like John McCain's. Earmarks are a terrible way to make national policy by deciding what you're going to fund and what you're not going to fund. They are guided by one or a small number of members of the Congress. They are slipped into bills like appropriation bills at the last minute without hearings, without debate. They tend to reward people like chairmen of appropriations committees at the expense of other members of the House and Senate who may be from areas in which there's more generally reasonable work going on energy. The federal government is not a good institution to choose which clean energy or which substitution takes place. It has tried to do that twice with respect to oil and has failed miserably both times. It tried with the Synfuels Corporation at the end of the 70s and beginning of the 80s. The Saudis drove the price of oil down to $5 a barrel in 1985 and bankrupted the Synfuels Corporation. It was always too expensive. It was a terrible idea from the beginning. The same thing, in a sense, has happened with hydrogen in a different way. Both the federal government and the state of California started pushing hard on hydrogen at the beginning of this decade. And its huge infrastructure costs and the very substantial cost of fuel cells themselves now has more or less sunk it, even with oil being at a very high price. We would have been much better off if the federal government had given a general direction to move toward renewables rather than picking synfuels or picking hydrogen. The general direction, particularly for electricity, that John McCain has in mind is a mandatory carbon cap and trade system, an issue on which he has split from the Bush administration from the beginning of the Bush administration. He believes also that we can move away from oil by breaking oil's monopoly over transportation and letting the market decide, once you have flexible fuel vehicles, whether or not it's going to go with ethanol, methanol, butanol, what the feedstocks are going to be, what the technology is going to be. It shouldn't be some congressman on an appropriations committee with an earmark going in and saying, I know the answer is butanol and from this kind of feedstock. No, that ought not to be the way we make energy policy. There ought to be a general thrust by the federal government which the market responds to. And I believe that that is a far sounder approach toward moving toward renewables and away from oil for transportation than utilizing earmarks and going with the randomly distributed chance that the chairman of the Appropriations Committee is going to just happen to be from a congressional district or from a state that has a university or a company that has exactly the right technology that the country should adopt. That's just throwing dice with our future. It's crazy.
Have you heard of telephone marks, where some of the congressmen call the head of the chair of maybe DOE or something, and they're friendly with them, and they say, "Hey, in 2006 we got this earmark, but because now we have to put our name on it, we don't want to do that. So just put it back in the budget."
I wasn't aware that was going on. I don't really work on the Hill on legislative issues and so forth, but I'm not surprised. And
I don't know how McCain could get around that.
You fight. You take it on. You embarrass the people who are doing it as soon as you find out about it. I don't think John McCain would have any problem naming names and circumstances like that.